Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Today we have one more set of great stories for you to enjoy. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Entitled neighbors demand I fix my fence. This one happened maybe 10 years ago, but it just came to mind. I'd purchased a house with my wife when I was about 26. We were definitely the kids of the neighborhood, but excited to get started making the home ours. All of our issues stemmed with one of the next-door neighbors. This started with basic entitlement. The landscaping in the section of the property that bordered theirs was pretty horrific, made worse by how the previous homeowner stored their RV there. There were some paver stones creating a little walkway across our front lawn. We set about to fix this whole section first, moving all the old landscaping rocks, building a retaining wall, putting down landscaping fabric, and moving the rocks back. Took the entire summer. Looks great now. Not good enough for the neighbor. Old lady: I use that pathway when I walk between these houses. Me: well, I would much prefer you use the sidewalk if you need to come to my door. When are you going to clean up the rocks on my yard? She wanted me to do the same thing I did on my side of the property to her section. Sorry, you're going to need to hire a landscaper. Fall rolls around, as does winter. She made sure to point out to me, the previous homeowner used to clean the leaves off my yard and used to shovel my walkway and driveway for me. Yeah, well, maybe if she'd ever been polite to me, I would have considered helping out an elderly neighbor. So now the real story begins. In the middle of winter, I'm keeping pretty busy being dad to our new baby and going back to school. It's finals week. We get a note on the door. It reads, "Your fence has fallen onto our property and we cannot get out of our house." Well, how'd you post this on my door then? So I go out back and take a look. Sure enough, a few sections of the fence have failed. It's leaning against their house, preventing access to the back gate. I call my dad. He shows up with tools in his truck. We proceed to dismantle the broken fence sections, put up some temporary fencing, and clean up. I'm going to have to do some grading work and dig out the old concrete footers to fix this right. The ground's frozen solid, so this'll need to wait. The next day, I hear some commotion out by the fences. It's old lady and old man. My wife and I go see what's going on. As we approach, they're both standing out by the temporary fence, scowling, shaking their heads no. "Hi there," I say. "This is not acceptable." "What do you mean? We put this up for now, but..." "You need to fix your fence." "Excuse me? I need to fix my fence?" "Yes, this is not acceptable. The fence was here before we built our house." Total lie. Her house was built before mine. This is public record. I have documentation that shows this. "It was provided to me during the sale." Me: "What do you mean? This should suffice just fine for now to keep the dogs out of each other's properties." "You need to put up a 6-foot privacy fence." At this point, I'm just PO'd. The fencing that borders my other neighbor's property has fallen before, and we both work together and split the cost of repairs. "Oh, do I? Well, if it's my fence, then I don't need to do anything. In fact, I could remove the rest of the fencing as you're claiming it belongs to me." "No, you need to put up a 6-foot privacy fence." Says who? Not the state, not the city. The HOA says so. I have documentation stating the HOA was disbanded 20 years prior. There is no HOA. It was disbanded in 1987. Then who am I sending checks to every month? I have no clue, but definitely not the HOA. "Oh, it figures you wouldn't pay your HOA dues. You're the worst neighbor ever." I'm done here. There is no HOA, and since you stated this fence is on my property, I'll do whatever I want with it. The only requirement here is that I keep my dog out of your yard, and this temporary fence will do just fine. The old man now jumps in. "I'm gonna rip this fence down, and then you'll see what happens when your dog comes onto my property." The old man is blind and has a very angry vibe to him. He has NRA stickers all over his car, so I know what he's implying here. "Sir, if you damage my property or lay one finger on my dog, I'll have you thrown in prison so effing fast your head spins." "What did you say?" "You come say that to my face." Yeah, right, dude. I grab my wife and walk back into the house. A few days later, code enforcement shows up. They come out and inspect the fencing section. Code enforcement informs them there's no code that dictates any type of fence. And since he cleaned up all the debris, there's no code violation. Or is there? As I can now see, old lady and old man's backyard is 100% weeds. Some of these weeds are at least 6 feet tall. Some of these weeds are considered noxious, meaning you're legally required by the state to kill them and remove them. I send a letter to code enforcement, and the next day I see the old lady scowling at me, trying to drag a trash bag full of weeds out of her backyard. I did fix the fence a few weeks later, after finals, when the ground was thawed out a bit and I could do it right. And our next story. My house is not for sale. One of my sad encounters with the Karen. Yay. I live in a small quad in a small suburban neighborhood. For those unaware, a quad is basically 4 houses stuck together, 2 facing the street and 2 hidden behind. Kind of like a townhouse, but not. This week, my back neighbor's unit directly behind me went on the market. The owners, a real nice couple with a kid close to my age, decided to renovate it so they could charge more rent. Anyway, I'm home alone, peacefully sitting on the couch, watching TV, eating my first bowl of cereal in a week. I had my wisdom teeth out, which sucked, and trying to keep my cat out of it. I'm watching the HLN channel out of boredom when somebody starts pounding on the door. At first I ignore it, but it persists for several minutes before I end up saying, screw it. After shoving my cereal bowl in the fridge to keep the cat out of it, I go to open the door. Me. Hello? Karen, the crazy lady at the door. Finally, I've been knocking for hours. Actually, I'm here to see the house on the market. Can you show me around? You mean the one in the back? No, this one. This house isn't on the market. Yes, it is. She points behind her. The sign says so. I look out and blink at the sign posted on the fence next to the driveway. Ma'am, they're renovating the house in the back since the tenant moved out. Let me in. I demand to be given a tour. Thank God for the screen door. Ma'am, how many times do I have to tell you? This unit is not for rent. She then stares at me weird. For rent? The sign says for sale. Now I know she's lying. The sign clearly says in bright orange letters against a black background, for rent, with the owner's number. Me, now exasperated. Can you not read? The sign says for rent. This house is for sale and I demand to be shown the inside. No, go away. This unit's not for sale or rent. It's the neighbors. You stupid brat, stop lying and let me in. I'm finally at my limit at this point. Lady, the sign says for rent, not for sale. If you can't understand that, then get some damn glasses and leave my not on the market house. I then slammed the door in her face and locked it. I then closed the front curtains, but that didn't stop her from banging on the front window. After 3 minutes of this, I've had enough. I grab my phone, storm over to the door, grab my old softball bat, and fling the door open. Karen barely has a chance to say anything when I step out. I towered over her. Get the F off my parents' property before I call the cops and make you. Karen finally got the hint and ran off. I called my parents to let them know what happened, and they said they'll tell the landlord. I hope she never comes back, because she'd make a horrible neighbor. And our next story. Pay the rent by the 1st or vacate the property. My roommate had suddenly lost his job before the turn of the month, and we knew there was no way we'd make rent. He already had another job lined up, but it'd be a couple of weeks before he was paid. It was about 5 days prior to the 1st when we went to go see the property manager. We informed her of the situation and told her we'd pay what we could, and even had no problem paying late fees or whatever else was coming our way. We signed a lease, and we understood that there would be penalties for missing rent. She didn't want to hear a word we said. She only said that as per our lease, we were required to pay rent on the 1st of each month. So we went back to our apartment, discouraged and uncertain as to what was going to happen and what to do. I started looking up the local laws on renting and eviction and learned that an eviction takes 30 days in my state. So at least we wouldn't be homeless. We racked our brains for the next few days trying to come up with some way to pay rent. But despite searching through local, state, and federal law, trying to sell a bunch of stuff, and even trying to borrow some money, we had nothing. It was the last day of the month. I was walking up to our door and saw a piece of paper hanging on it. I assumed it was an eviction notice and was surprised it was a day early. Luckily for me, it was our ticket out of the apartment. A handwritten note from the property management company rustled slightly in the breeze. It simply read, "Pay rent by the 1st or vacate the property." Signed, B-word office lady who didn't want to listen to you. Okay, I admit it. That's not really her name. Having familiarized myself with local renters' rights over the last few days, I knew that this note counted as a signed document stating that we had permission to break the lease and leave the property. We knew we weren't going to pay rent, so we did exactly what she told us to do. We vacated the crap out of that place. In less than 6 hours, we packed all of our stuff, threw it on our cars, and found another apartment that gave us 30 days to give them a deposit because we had good credit. She called us the next day, and the next, ranting about property abandonment and how we owed her rent. But I knew that we only filled 2 of the 3 required criteria for property abandonment, and I explained to her what her note meant from a legal perspective. To this day, I have no idea how someone whose job it is to make money off of people in apartments could let this happen. Why the hell did she even leave that note when the very next day she could have posted an eviction notice? Part of me wants to think that she did it on purpose to help us out, but she was too B-word for that to be true. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video to the end, and I'll see you in the next one.